into the abyss, where hearts beat in sync. In this vampire's den, it's all red and black, no time to even think. Ooh, yeah. Welcome to Anastasia, the club that never sleeps, where creatures of the night come to dance so deep. Get lost in the music, let it take control. Midnight shadows, we surrender our souls.
The Prince of Baltimore, in Baltimore by Night, Macon Elliott, black lawyer embraced in the 1850s. A lawyer working for Lincoln, turned to protect the president by the local ventrilo. He was not a strong man and not a violent man, but he was smart and good looking. Upon being turned, he immediately got Dominate 3, which he used to dominate everyone he needed to protect Lincoln. During the Civil War, he hid Lincoln in Dundalk when they were trying to assassinate him in Maryland. But during the Civil War, he hid while the mayor and police were all arrested. He was a coward, a hiding coward, making directions and planning things from behind the scenes, never on the front lines. So since he is taking control of things, like as a prince right away, so in the 20 years that he's embraced and the Civil War is going on, let's give him manipulation 4, charisma 2. He's already good with law, maybe a little bit investigations to figure out what's going on in the city, and of course some in occult, more than that because he knows what's going on now. So that looks good. And he took ownership of the ports as the ports were growing bigger in Baltimore. He created lots of new houses. He made some money during those 10 years. So let's bring his finance up. Like he completely concentrated on finance pretty much during that time. And let's see, what else? What else? Maybe a little bit into security. I know security wasn't that good back then, but locks and things. He's a coward. He gave up ownership of the ports after the hunters came to Baltimore. He gave it up for a 10-year truce with the hunters. The hunters would back off for 10 years if they could take ownership of the ports and get their finances that way. So he's making deals in a coward way. At this point, let's give him, he's afraid of the hunters. So let's bring his fortitude to 1. Maybe he learned fortitude that time because he's deathly afraid of being ambushed by the hunters. And we can bring finance up by a little bit more. After the 10-year truce was finished, there was the Great Fire of Baltimore. Half of Baltimore burned down as unknown vampires took on the hunters to try to kill them all. He viewed this as a mistake on the humans for letting the hunters in. It was their fault. Obviously, he did not partake in the action. That's not something that he does. He's still, in the background. Let's say he brings his fortitude up to 2. He's very nervous. He's very scared. Bring his dodge up to 2. He's learning how to run away. He's terrified of these things, of the hunters. After that, the hunters got their butt kicked. During the 1910s, baseball got really, really big in the vampire community. He would have partaken in that. So he operated a baseball team out of Baltimore. Of course, he wanted to be in charge of the vampire-only baseball team. And during that 10 years, it was like 10 years of peace. He loved it. Let's give him a little bit more stamina because he's playing baseball during that time. And let's bring his, finance to 5. He's one of the best in the world. Investigation to 3. He's performing his princely duties. He's investing. He's running around a lot, having a lot of fun. The roaring 20s happen. He's making a lot of money off of sports, off of bets. Everybody's making money during this time. He's got finance 5. He's going crazy with it. Let's bring his intelligence up to 5. He's one of the best financial experts on the planet at this point. Let's bring his logistics up to 3. He's learning new languages and his investigation up to 4. He's learning as the prince. He's solving issues now. And then comes the roaring 20s, the Great Depression of the 1930s. He loses the baseball team. He loses most of his money to his stocks. He doesn't lose it all. His finance is still really good. But even like the best people lost half their money during that time. He's still running as the prince, doing a decent job of keeping the hunters out at this point, as best as you can do during a Great Depression. At this point, he learned how to drive. So we'll take his horse to drive. Let's see, drive of 2. He's a decent driver. He learns how to hide in the shadows with obfuscate, and that looks pretty good at this point. And now we're at the World War II production area. He's afraid of Hitler coming to America, so he orders a lot of the vampires in Baltimore to go over to Germany to try to assassinate Hitler to help the Allies as much as possible. And then he's still performing his princely duties, doing a decent job at that. Let's give him Auspex 1. That gives him more ability to look at what's going on within his city, figure out what's going on. Let's give him Law 5. He pretty much knows all the laws in the world at this point. And Cult of 4, he's learning about all the other things that are going on in the city at this point. He's becoming a veteran at this. In the 1950s, he Most hunters were white men, white women at this point. So he started making policies that were very anti-white. He wanted most of the white people out of Baltimore. He figured if he could get the white people out, the hunters would leave with them. So he was helping pass laws. And there was a huge white flight in the 1950s in Baltimore. Now Baltimore is predominantly black, but it didn't work. The hunters did not go away. They actually became stronger during this time, and more of them came in. So that was one of his not so good policies. Again, the hunters are back and bring up fortitude by another one. So now he has fortitude of 3, and we'll bring his dodge by another 2. He's starting, everything he can to try to survive the hunters. In the 1960s, the hunters start the heroin epidemic in Baltimore to fund their organization. They already own the port, and now they have lots of money. And this was when the first wave of the hunters start killing off the vampires. This was a failure on his part. They started questioning whether he's a good prince at this point, and at this point, only about a quarter of the vampires are killed, still a very large number. He's terrified at this point. He gets dominated up a little bit more for his own protection, and then Streetwise of 2, he's learning that they're controlling the crime in the city. He's learning about anti-crime, who rules what. The teacher strike in the 1970s, the crime got so bad that schools actually shut down. So he buys a for-profit prison system. They're doing mass incarcerations of anyone committing violent acts or using drugs or selling drugs to try to stop the hunters and slow them down. It's something that he's really trying to do. He has Law 5, Investigation 4. Let's give him Investigation 5 now. So he can really track down these people. Politics of 2. He's trying to get into the government, make policies to stop the crime right now. He's telling other vampires, hey, you, and you're in charge of stopping crime, stopping the drug trade, and that's their entire deal. We're embracing new vampires, and those vampires' job is to stop the drug trade in Baltimore. And at this point, let's give him Obfuscate 2, and now he can hide even better because he's a coward. In the 1980s is when the second large wave of vampire eliminations happen. Another quarter of the vampires are killed, bringing the population down to half. He is terrified at this point. He starts living in prison behind bars to try to protect himself. He gets Auspex 2 to try to learn what's going on outside of the city. Let's give him Computer 2. So at this point, he is underneath the prison in his own little asylum down there. He has some old school 1980s computers down there where he's giving directions, but none of the other vampires know what the hell he's talking about. They don't know where he is, and he's just giving orders from the shadows. So now we're in the 1990s. Computers have gotten a bit better. His computer now is 4. He's been concentrating on it. He can run his own systems now. He can hack. And then we'll give him Fortitude of 4. He is completely afraid of the hunters finding him. If they do now, he has a little bit of ability to escape. Fortitude 4, Dominant 4. He can disappear, Auspex. So everything that he has is defensive, nothing offensive. He doesn't know how to use a gun. He doesn't know how to even throw a fist. This guy is just a complete coward. He hides, and he is being taken out of his prince position pretty much. No one's seen him in about 10 years now, and Nara has been mostly doing all the prince duties in Baltimore, vetting vampires who come in, protecting the city from other supernatural things from entering the city. This is pissing him off that Nara is doing all of this and everyone's listening to her. So he's trying to take her Native American land away from her, which is just pissing her off even more. She's fighting politically to keep it. Right now, there's going to be an election. If his candidate wins, then they're going to take the Native American land away. And if her candidate wins, they get to keep it. So either she wins and he gets pissed off, or he wins and they start to try to take the Native American land, which she is not going to let that happen to the best of her ability. He plans, if he needs to bring in the National Guard and have Abrams tanks, Apache helicopters go in if he needs to kill her. If he needs to, he'll call a blood hunt if he wins this election. And whoever wins this election is supposed to be the new prince. So he can call a blood hunt on her and have the army execute her. And as strong as she is, she can't take on Apache helicopters and Abrams tanks. But it would look bad, on television, Abrams tanks rolling into a Native American population, but he's willing to take that bad publicity. And if she wins, he's mostly going to launch some sort of small civil war, but he's a coward, so we'll see how that goes. I don't know how the election's going to go. It depends on the campaign. But that is Macon Elliott, the so-called Prince of Baltimore.